One, it is close to the top of the hour. We want to make sure that everyone's here. You're going to hear a sound and echo. That means that everything is looking good and sounding great. We want to make sure everything is perfect because we have a perfect guest joining us today. It is the top of the hour. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the Writer's Block. I'm your friend and host, Fullmoon Ancestry. And thanks to all the great moderators here and each and every one of you, we always have a fun, positive community here where we celebrate white identity, white Ingu preference. And for once in our lifetimes, guys, we can stand up for our land, our resources, and our sovereignty. You heard it here from Fullmoon Ancestry first. We can have it all, ladies and gentlemen. We can have ethnic sovereignty with white solidarity and a whole lot of fun doing so. But in order to have ethnic sovereignty, we have to know our ethnicity. And guys, do I have such a great guest today? Before there was Patriarch Alternative, before there was Awakening, before there was Prabudimas in Lithuania, there was Erkenbrand having conferences in our community since 2016. And we have Uncle Sam from Erkenbrand joining us today. And we're going to find out a whole bunch about Dutch history, Dutch culture, Erkenbrand, and a lot of great things happening in the future. But without ado, Uncle Sam, great to see you. Thanks for joining us today. And how are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great, and I'm happy to be on the show as well. Sorry I haven't watched it as much before, but actually you and I have been mutual acquaintances by going to Scanza.
Yes, I am so happy and honored to have attended last year's 2019's all three scans events. And when we talk about building community and culture, these events, this is something I live for, that you get to rub elbows, have dinner with your favorite content creators. You get to make friends, acquaintances. And I would not be here at this current location if I didn't meet a lot of great friends and brothers at these events. But Erkenbrand has been going on before all this. So Uncle Sam, I was wondering if you can give a little background, even if yourself, but most importantly, about Erkenbrand for people that don't know.
Well, this all actually started with the original 5. I wasn't a part of that back in the day. But since then, the organization has, of course, grown and grown, and we put up the conferences mainly as an inspiration from when Richard Spencer first did his at MPI. And our organization mostly functions as a social network and a think tank, and making sure that people can network together at an international level using our conferences. To us, that's very important because even though we represent nationalism, what we are and what we do is an international fight. Globalists are global and they need to be fought all around the world. And this is what the conference format really helps doing.
I definitely agree. You know, it seems that we get a lot of people throughout the world that says, oh, no, I'm not white. I'm not European. I'm Czech or I'm Slovak. Well, our enemies don't care that we see ourselves as, Civnats, or we don't see race. They hate us because they're white. They're trying to replace us because we're white. But it's only white people that really care about maintaining the great Dutch language, the great Dutch culture, maintaining the great Dutch history and all the great heroes from that. And I was wondering, Uncle Sam, if you can give a little background to people that don't know about the rich heritage and history of the Dutch people, of Dutch culture, going back, if you want, to the Batavians and the Assalian Franks. If you want, just give an idea of how you see yourselves and how do you identify as a Dutch nationalist.
Oh, well, that's a big topic, but we've been a people since ancient times, of course, with the Batavi, but this is more like out of the Romantic era, before our time, as it were. And we're, of course, more an amalgamation of Germanic tribes, the Franks, the Utes, the Frisi, who have been the original people in the region, of course, but more or less a nation since the year 1018, when the small barony really came into itself, taxing ships going for the North Sea. And that really grew out into a bigger country as everybody wanted to pick up on that. This, of course, exploded really into a nation of its own. when the Reformation came, and also with it the first tremors of nationalism. This really helped us gain our independence with a little help from the Hebrews, who were freshly evicted from Spain, and they had a lot of money, and they needed to find somebody who really hated Spain at the time. So that marriage really took off. And then we created a republic where, of course, somebody who is cosmopolitan and international has freedom to move and religious freedom to move it. And except for Catholics, of course, can't have that. And this more or less coalesced into the nation we have today. Trading, minor superpower. The people itself, like the land, are direct, just like how our entire country is flat. No bullshit, straightforward. A people's being is always tied to its land. And I'd hate to see our people become stateless and wandering. I wonder if Europeans can handle that existence, even though they handled it 8,000 years ago. I do doubt if they can handle statelessness in the modern era, especially in a world that is going to increasingly start to hate them. Right now, state and power protects us, quote unquote protects us. But once that power is gone, there will be very few things between us and the entire world of minorities that hate us and are taught to hate us.
You've hit the hammer on so many nails. What people in the past have talked about, anarcho-tyranny, is spreading all over white societies, all over Western civilization. And of course, when you talk about power, people tend to think that power is something, okay, that happens just with the government, with a politician or a political party. But what we're seeing throughout Western society is that power has actually been kind of moved away from the government, and it's placed into academia. It's placed into the media, entertainment. It's placed into the tech corporations. It's placed into the NGOs. Sometimes it's the government that has the least amount of power, but the power we hope and depend for them to protect white people's rights and safety is actually being either not enforced, that white people are not being protected, or it's actually used against them, that non-whites, immigrants don't have to follow the law, but white people do. But if we try to defend ourselves, well, then they move heaven and earth to find us, they arrest us, they throw the book at us. And I'm sure, and you can give some details, that this sadly has been spreading to the Netherlands maybe in the last 5 or 10 years.
Well, there's nothing that really happens in the Netherlands that is any special from the world stage, of course, because anything that happens in America happens in the rest of the world. What we have right now, and it's become mostly apparent with COVID, and of course this is a tripping block that nobody can avoid, is that nobody can get together, except if you are a non-white race riot, of course, then all the bets are off. If you are Islamic, they recently did a study. I found an article today. What was it? 50 of 450 mosque goers all had COVID, going to the same place where they tested these people. The police, of course, comes visits you if you're in the backyard having a party, and it's like, oh, aren't there too many people here? Are you keeping 1.5 meter distance? Meanwhile, I can cycle down the same street and see like Muslim family, 12 people sitting at one table, right back together. It's bullshit. This is social control. It's not that, look, guys, in Asia, they've been wearing mouthpieces not to infect each other, and that's just good form. But with the COVID crisis, you don't want to give anybody a potentially lethal virus. All knowledge right now is secondhand anyway, so you'll not really know for sure unless you've had it. And will it kill you, yes or no, or will it cripple you, yes or no? Nobody knows. I know a few colleagues that have had it but had no problems. So, okay, maybe they've had the luck of the draw. Maybe you're like the 4% that doesn't have it. But all these bets are off the moment you are a non-white. You can have a massive gathering, outside, inside, doesn't matter. Meanwhile, if you are protesting against the lockdown, then you're not even allowed to show up. Licenses won't be given, or if you're a part of what we have going around in the Netherlands right now, they're trying to get rid of food production to, of course, make sure we have the space to put tenements to house migrants in. Farmer Defense Force can't even come together to protest whatever demands they have right now. I think something around CO2 and cow farts being the foremost danger to society. But it really shows you that the law is it's unequally put onto the citizenry, and that's correctly what you said with anarcho-tyranny. And I wonder if our people would have no issue fighting the anarchy of invading migrants, for instance, even along with treason from within, but it cannot fight the tyranny at the same time. Any moment you have a resistance to it, any gathering, any society like our own that comes together, you get the weight of the state weighed down on you. You can have various Jewish organizations lining up, like the Anne Frank Foundation or the CD, that happily advises the state. The right wing is the real danger. Meanwhile, we have Antifa growing increasingly aggressive, burning down cities. We've seen it at the G20 top, where they burnt down Hamburg. How does a people ever survive the pressure from both a tyrannical state and an anarchic populace? This is like the Balkan War, but then if Tito had still been alive, I wonder if the Serbs would have been able to do much of anything. Because we all know the conflict started off just after Tito died. And it's like, if you still have the dictatorship in place, what now?
Right. And Tito dying in 1980, Tito, we're told at least that he was the rubber band that kind of held everything somewhat together. But once he passed away in 1980, all bets were off, and people resorted to their ethnic and religious loyalties, most so even ethnic loyalties. I want to give a big shout out to Nicholas Gilby, the future ruler of Macedonia, who joins me every Saturday with Greg Johnson with the Countercurrents crew around up 3 p.m. East Coast time. He is, of course, the future ruler of Macedonia. He has a lot of great insight into the Yugoslav and the Balkan War. So always check out that on Saturday. What I want to check out right now is all the great donations. We have a lot of great people with donations, and I want to thank each and every one of them, as we usually do. Johnny 5K with 1 lemon, great to see you as always. Tiger Cat 8 with 1 ice cream, talking about Patriot Alternative. Guys, check out Patriotic Alternative. They have that site up. They are having more articles, and there are a lot of great writers like Tiger and writing. So check PA and those articles out. We have Hollinger with 7 ice creams. First time seeing you, but hello and welcome. We have Ilmrel with 1 ice cream. Kiitos kaikesta minun siskoni. Kiitos jättolosta. We have Lipstick with 2 ice creams. Hienoa nähdä sinua täällä streamalla kuin aina. Totta kai. Slag, true Sumalainen Veljani with 2 lemons. Kiitos Ruunasta. Peter Lapland, another great brother, Suomesta from Finland, with 1 ice cream and 4 lemons. Kiitos sulle, kiitos sinulle Veljani, kiitos kaikesta, kiitos sinun avustasi, anteeksi. We also have SJB with 1 whole ninjagini. Thank you, SJB, brother. You rock, you rule. Slug with 2 lemons. Thanks for all your help and support. Kiitos sinulle, Veljani. When we are talking about anarcho-tyranny, these things have been seeping into our societies for the last few decades, but a lot of people have started their red pill journey almost sometimes maybe 5-6 years ago, around somewhere between 2013 and 2015. But what we've seen this year with a different sense of laws and even science with COVID-19, I guess we're told that we're all biologically the same, but Africans are getting impacted more, so it's just a behavior. But then, behaviors are all the same, so it's just they're getting sick at high levels because of white racism. So no matter what we do, it's always the white man's fault. But
I think for them, like, racism is really reaching. It's like, this is making them sick. I can imagine there's some extra stress to it, but in most of society, it's really, I think to them, the pain is failing over and over and over again. They always try to hold up these icons. You have a black man getting a mech job at a radio station, for instance, and oh, look at him being hip, etc., or getting a job at a sports team, going into basketball, rugby, going into soccer. Most of the Dutch youth team is already non-white, so that's something to look forward to. But it's never in academics. It's never in some professional area where they can say, oh, this guy really made it on its own. Oh, it always has to be, oh, we helped this guy get ahead, or hey, this guy finally got my break after a life of crime, and you can make it too. Like, not even black people are stupid enough to buy that. Not even. I think even minorities can look at the lies of liberal media and say that doesn't happen to anybody. I'm not going to get a job at a radio station to be the chosen few, to eat out of your hand. And this is also part of why they hate the liberal as much as they hate the honest racial identitarian like myself. It's that they both see us as sides of the same racist coin, and you cannot avoid that. So you might as well be clear and say, look, guys, I at least want to be amongst my own people and not also amongst you because that gives me good boy points. No, you are going to be hated just the same like I am. That's the sad part. And you see it with a couple of these riots as well. If BLM shows up, a couple of white people get beat up as well. It's unavoidable.
Sadly, that the Africans or the joggers or the whatnot who attack the white people, they'll never be found, they'll never be arrested. And even when people in our community find, identify, dox the person for safety, right, to get them off the streets, we get the liberal activists, lawyers, attorneys, and judges that will then let them out. There have been so many people, well, very few actual joggers and Antifa have been arrested in the last 2.5 months, in the US at least. But the ones that were arrested, they've been all let out and they're back on the streets doing again same things that's been in Portland. I've said this in a lot of my articles and on these streams. People have heard that when non-white minority groups come into white Western societies, first they become the protected class. But when non-white groups, are the protected class, white people become the unprotected class. And when white people, Europeans, are the unprotected class, we then become the targeted class. And they've been doing this through the academia, the media. That think of the 3 R's here, people, that I repeat all the time in my articles. Non-whites have been encouraged to resent us. They're allowed to ridicule us. Now they are retaliating against us. So Uncle Sam, I'm curious, how has Dutch culture, Dutch society, life in the cities changed within the last 10, 15 years?
I wish I could say for the better, but it's merely gotten more crazy, far left, brown. The country really took a hit once Pim Fortuyn got assassinated, who was by no means a radical, but once he got shot, nobody really cared about it. Yeah, people were shocked, a politician just got murdered. But this event uniquely almost mirrors the leader of the Communist Party in Japan getting shanked right in front of the cameras. And with that, socialism sort of died in Japan. It never really came up once that leader was killed. And I think for anti-immigration in the Netherlands, that more or less has followed the same way with Fortuyn getting assassinated, because nobody can look at anti-immigration right now without being like literally Satan, right? You see Geert Wilders, who of course takes that niche for himself, which is, a large niche. A lot of people are upset with immigration because they are going to be a minority. And even a mainstream newspaper like the NOS will say something. It's a large Dutch broadcaster that says, hey, in 2050, 40% of the working population will be ethnic minorities, brown people. And then at the same time, they of course want to say like, oh, there is a white genocide conspiracy theory. Like, okay, maybe it's not even a genocide, but our people are disappearing from our fatherland. And isn't there something that we should think about having our place in the world? Because when there was colonialism, oh, this is evil because there's too many white people coming to country in Africa. Okay, so now we have the reverse. There's too many brown people coming to our homeland in Europe. Are they the bigots for not putting up with our diversity, or are we now the bigots for not wanting to put up with being strangers in our own land? Because there will be two nations for all people that decide to settle our lands in Europe, but there will be none for us, and that will end up in a stateless existence.
That is the so many ironies in life that, I always say it's all, anti-white propaganda. It all leads to, we use the term white genocide, but I'll say this: only Dutch society is expected to be multicultural. Only Dutch society is expected to be tolerant. Only Dutch society is expected to open up the third world. It is never reciprocal. You don't see Dutch people going to the Middle East and the Middle East opening its doors and changing its culture and accommodating to Dutch interests.
Oh, it's even better than that. I sometimes collect news articles from people who want to take the plunge, go to Africa, for instance, and start something ridiculous. I know one particular case stands out in a channel I manage, and it's about a Belgian guy going to the Congo, having his transport company, and all his employees basically steal from him. If it's not his employees, then it's the local populace. And once he got into legal trouble, the judge, of course, screwed him because he's a white man and he has plenty of money to go around. He, of course, goes bankrupt and goes back to Belgium, and he's like, yeah, but I love that country. I'm like, dude, are you insane? It's one of these types. His grandfather or father, I think, was still part of Belgian Congo when that was a thing. But a lot of people eventually go to Africa, live there for a while, and it's like, oh yeah, the crime's rather high here. I don't really feel safe all the time. Yeah, but the crime's high. Even though they live in a well-guarded private security tourist enclave for white people who can live there because, of course, there are death squads patrolling around. It's the same thing in Rio, for instance. You have the wealthy areas, and they're made possible by copious amounts of private security. What's another theme in the world, in the Western world nowadays? Police privatization. Aha. Who wants to abolish the police? BLM. So there's a massive industry, and already one of the most massive industries in the world. I think the largest company in the world is Trigion, which handles private security. And this is only going to grow because there will be privatized police. And of course, these police, they won't give you justice. No, they will be armed death squads like they are in the third world. This is what people want to go towards. It's like they have no concept of how life outside the bubble of Europe functions. Not at all. And this is where Erkenbrand, in a way, is different from other nationalist organizations as well. We've always really been described as the highbrow types, the well-traveled and the well-to-do types. And this definitely holds true in our membership.
I definitely agree with all of that. I always was saying that. Hold on here. I'm just getting a little echo here. I think you guys will hear me much better now. Not that type of echo, the actual echo. The hardest part has been explaining to my mom just all the craziness that's gone on, or the acceleration that's gone on, not only within the last 5 years, but the actual just last 2.5 months. I always said that there would be a gradation, that the US and other Western countries will first become Brazil, and then we will become South Africa, in which the fate of the Boers and Afrikaners, all white people in South Africa, that will be our fate. But I thought it would be, 15, 20, 25 years from now. It is accelerating at a major pace. And already, just for example, the US, again, I haven't really been in the US for the last 2.5 years, but except for COVID for a few months here. But white children throughout middle school, elementary school, and high school are already minorities in the US. We're seeing this now in Sweden, various parts of France, various parts of the UK.
And I hate to say, the demographics is it starts at the age brackets. It really starts at, okay, look, what is the youth doing? What is 0 to 5 doing? What is 6 to 12 doing? And once you understand the age brackets, you can immediately see this paradigm shift in society, which is where you're going to be old and white and a minority, and all the young people of fighting age are going to be brown people. And you're going to go to an old folks home and they're going to beat you. There are tons of videos coming out of the United States where there are old white people being taken care of by Juanito and getting beat the fuck up. You don't want to end up in that situation. Oh, you know, that may be so bad to laugh about it, but that is literally the future you're looking towards. You know, you have old women going nuts, having cats, and then voting for refugees, or, oh, I can still have my chance at, you know, a normal life or a relationship by marrying some dude out of Africa, getting him citizenship. It's all so bad, you can do nothing but laugh about it. But this is kind of the reality. You're going to be old and white, and in a way, there was, of course, the white pill where leftists don't have any children. Meanwhile, conservative people have the most children, basically for the entire populace of our nations. But liberals don't need to reproduce. They can just get replaced by migrants, and they'll think mostly the same things, but just along terms of hate instead of coexistence. The liberal thinks, oh, we need to be nice to the people, and perhaps we do, and we need to live together. But this is not the sentiment that is shared with the rest of the world. This is not why we also sacked the Roman Empire. They have technology that we want to absorb into our own nation, and perhaps we can't keep it going, even though we did pretty well with the Roman Empire. But I highly doubt this is going to happen with the people we first colonized, gave trains, roads, functional society, government, farms, and didn't manage to hold on to them. How are they going to move to Europe and keep the same system going that has just been dumped off to them back in the day? The Chinese sure as hell didn't have much. And if you watch the movie Empire of Dust, you'll really feel an affinity for it, the colonization of China into Africa. They just try to build a road, and they're like, we had nothing, and you guys had everything, and we still made it work, and you didn't. This is the contempt they have. And this contempt for Africans has been universal throughout the world, whether it's talking to Arabs. Various scholars have had a lowly opinion of the continent, Europeans, or the Chinese. It's all basically a blanket term. So I wonder if there is even a more diverse group of people that have had a bad opinion of African migration than there is of, you know, diverse peoples.
You know, we're talking about, again, that is a great movie, The Fate of Empires. I always notice, looking through history, that one of the big factors in the decline or collapse of any empire civilization is the importation of foreign labor. It happens usually in 4 steps. Steps 1, because that foreign labor group is doing all the labor, they grow in population as the original group or race declines. Step 2, that foreign labor group gets rights and privileges, whether it's given to them or they take it. Step 3, they usually take over, usually through violence. Steps 4, because they've taken over, because they are majority, they can no longer maintain the culture of the original people. So the original people die out, and they're taken over by a group of people that have no connection and no ability to maintain that culture or civilization. So they actually, the foreign group brought in, ends up either moving away or dying out too. Now, of course, with the Great Replacement, they just will try to, the global globalization, they'll try to keep importing people to buy more cell phones, Nike shoes, or apply for more credit cards, or
Are you
perhaps
implying they
just
don't already
votes.
have them on the boat? You see
So
these
it is
flying
very,
off
very,
Lampedusa and Lesbos. They already have smartphones. This is how they coordinate their human trafficking in the beginning. Plus, it's not the poorest people in Africa or the Middle East that are going to make the trip. It's the middle class. It's the upper class, mostly liberals that, you know, don't want to live in Syria anymore because Assad's a big meanie, or you know, are going to be the educated elite of the country themselves. Because if you're going to be the educated elite in a dump, it doesn't really matter. You're still going to live in a dump. So there is no barricade for them choosing to be like, okay, I'm going to live in Europe with my, the university degree of Kinshasa, and I'm going to sweep floors in Europe, and it'd still be a better life, right? This is how little trust they have in the ability of their own people to manage any form of a state. And these are the most intelligent Africans coming over, or the most intelligent Arabs. And they even know, look, guys, this is never going to happen. I'm going to Europe.
Yeah, now it really does crash that narrative that they're, really seeking any type of shelter or refugee status when they're making TikTok videos on their way over here, bragging about coming here, coming to rape our women, take our jobs if they apply for jobs, and beat our men senseless. But that being said, I need to be beat senseless when I don't catch up with all these great donations. We have Yanni.White with 1 lemon, Gitos Kaikis the value, and we have White Rabbit Radio bringing a whole bunch of great viewers over. Before there was Murdoch, there was Tim Murdoch and Horus the Avenger. Guys, always follow and support White Rabbit Radio. He and his group has been making great artwork, great cartoons, great content for our people to entertain, inform, and even help people if they're trying to red pill someone. And I always go back and enjoy their animation. I'll be joining White Rabbit Radio this Saturday, I think at sometime 5 p.m. On Eastern time. Definitely check with that. And I look forward to having a great conversation with him. Thanks, White Rabbit Radio, for all your help and support. With donating a diamond, says, guess who is on my show this weekend? Let's find out. Tassia Michelle with 2 ice creams. Great to see you, and thanks for all your help and support. And we had Natterton here with 1 ice cream and 4 lemons. I think he may have just left, but if you're still here, thanks for all your help and support, brother. We really appreciate that. You rock. You rule. Always great to see you. I know we've been talking a lot about black pill subjects, but sometimes it takes it to reach the dawn before it brightens up. And we have Uncle Sam with Erkenbrand brightening things up for our community and culture since 2016. So Uncle Sam, I was wondering if you can give a little background onto some of the motivations or even inspirations you had in starting a conference for Dutch nationalists in the Netherlands. I know you mentioned Richard Spencer's original conference 2015, but what made you take it to the next level and bring it to the Netherlands?
Was really that even though it was, this was before Hillgate. Yeah. It was a really interesting format, and all the interesting people we of course knew from the internet were there, and that made it all the more lifelike. It was like you were right there in the podcast, and that is a feeling we really wanted to take to the Netherlands as well. And as you can see, the format really keeps expanding and evolving as well. And now to the point that there are a various amalgamation of European conferences that anybody can go to. Not anybody, but some are more open than others. For us, it's only invitation now because of secrecy. And we also want to evolve to the next step. For us, becoming more of a secret society, our networking ability is also more for people who are going to set trends in our circles, instead of people who just want to show up and enjoy togetherness with other nationalists in other countries. For us, it's really important that the right people get together in the same room and make magic happen. And for the conference, this motivation of seeing it grow and making sure that our people still have hope and the tools to defend themselves is really important. What we do on the site is mostly giving people the thinking tools, the arguments, the personal experiences, much like Amran does, which is also a great experience or a great inspiration to us. And conferences are an expansion of that, a small format that we keep working on, and that other nationalist organizations can also copy as well.
I've been going to all these conferences as much as I could when I was living in Eastern Europe. And that's why, I probably met probably a third of the people in the chat at these great events. And every time that I talk to people, they say, oh, you've got to go to Erkenbrand. Oh, you got to go. And I talk to people,
That's right.
you've had some amazing guests, amazing speakers talking about some definitely controversial but important topics. What has been some of the biggest challenges that you've maybe faced or encountered in putting on these conferences with these big name guests on these very controversial but important topics, especially in the Netherlands?
Oh, a big challenge to that is, of course, keeping intelligence agencies out, keeping Jewish lobbyists out, and the pathetic attempts by journalists, of course, to come in. But another thing that is less obvious is, of course, the media craze that a lot of Europeans seem to have, this desire for attention. Getting people to stay quiet, even for a secret society, is very difficult, really, to keep a lid on it. People always want to brag, I'm a part of this. It's like the Morpheus conversation in Deus Ex. Mankind created society to be absorbed into a higher order, not to achieve more things. And to really show this higher order is what people immediately do once they get absorbed into it. You want to hold a conference? Oh, look, guys, I'm part of the group. I'm going to the conference. No, shut up. Stop it. This is really one of the greatest challenges. And, once you're there, get people to turn off their phones, stop looking at it. This is something that's become apparent in the later years, that people feel really uneasy if they can't look at their phones every couple of minutes. And I really encourage other conferences to do it as well, just to, not just for psychological torture, but please learn how to check out of technological society. It'll do you a lot of good in life.
Some of the most happiest times in my life, and I'm always happy, right? Because I get to have these shows with all the great people in the chat here. But some of the happiest times in my life is when I've lived in small towns or villages where I did not need my phone. I could walk out in the evening with my dog or simply by myself. Everyone knew me. I knew them. I didn't have to worry necessarily about my safety. Obviously, these are high trust, homogenous white European societies, of course. But I do recommend just every day, find some time, ladies and gentlemen, friends, sisters, brothers, to step away from the cell phone, from social media, even the internet, whether that's 30 minutes or an hour. It will give your mind a nice break. I try to do that as much as possible, but I definitely encourage that. But when you go to these events, you always want to practice OPSEC, operational security. So Uncle Sam, I was wondering, there are a lot of people who want to go to similar type conferences, but might be a little hesitant. It's not our goal to scare them away. We want them to come if they're in our community. But I was wondering if you can give a few pointers and suggestions for people if it's their first time, simple do's and not to do's when you go to an event like Awakening, Scanza, Patriot Alternative, or hopefully one day Erkenbrand.
Well, this really is not the organization or commitment you should be a part of if you easily get scared. Our mission is one that will instill fear in you. And this is also a big drive of why this is often a group of the few instead of a group of the many. Look, if society is with you and everybody praises you for burning down the city, then you'll become big like BLM, and there will be money, and there will be positive attention, and there will be lawyers lining up to bail you out of jail. But if you are a nationalist, this is a dangerous path. It has a few rewards except your continued existence. And if you are a baby, then just turn back, take the blue pill, don't go ahead. If you really are interested in this, then you will meet dedicated and friendly people who are in it with their reason, not just because it's a hate group, and this is what it's styled around for societal rejects. No, it's for people that love their community, talk to their neighbors, and go with other people to social events, outings. This is as much a youth organization and a social organization as much as it is a political one. And if you really want to get into going to conferences, then you have to get connected. And you can do this by either starting your own local group, which is much better because I always support small local initiatives more than I do big national entities. And it is always that the most interesting thing is what you can do for your people. And that makes it doubly so because if you put yourself on the line for this, then other people will be aware that you are doing this. They will be attracted to why this person is stepping out of line. Meanwhile, if you are just asking to go into a conference, then everybody will like, yeah, but who is this guy? What does he do? Why is he in the game in the first place? And the answer is always, he's just in the game to, either catch a few laughs or, oh, this is different. This is an experience. But for us, this is a mission. And if you also want to go to conferences, then you either put yourself on the line or join people that put themselves on the line and support them with everything you have. And like I said, this is an investment. It's not something you do lightly. And to me, this commitment, we talked about it earlier. Sometimes it feels like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. And of course, you can't telegraph that because then people think like, hey, this is a conviction that makes people suffer. And to a degree, it perhaps does, because we live in the days of, the apocalypse almost. If you know the depths of demographic disaster awaiting Europe, you wouldn't become happy as well. But being with people that will stick together to survive, no matter what, no matter if the nation goes down or you guys have to move or whatever, at least you'll be together. And this is the opposite of what they did in South Africa, where once apartheid ended, it became a rout and everybody fled to Australia, England, the Netherlands. How are you going to keep a culture together if you all go in different directions and you become individuals? The answer is, of course, you don't. So if you guys are together as a group, you can at least make a difference, or at least attempt to make a difference until it is completely no longer possible. And I'll leave it up to the viewers to decide when that is. Or you can be together and decide, hey, guys, we are a group of people. And even though we are not stateless in being, we are as good as, and it is time for us to go somewhere else together and maintain that bastion of Dutch culture and be together and not integrate. And plenty of cultural groups do this in other countries. If you look at Muslims going to Europe, for instance, they're not integrating, let me tell you that. And they manage to keep on holding on to their culture in the past. And it's like, oh, Uncle Sam, do you want to be like the Muslim? Do you want to be like a barbarian? It's like, well, if it's to keep what is left of our national identity alive, then that is, an indecency you'll have to suffer.
Yeah, there is a cold, hard truth. Even I have to remind myself, I was on a stream and I tried to be, revolutionary and say that, whether you're a Christian, agnostic, or pagan, my religion is my race. My morality is my race. My politics is my race. My race, my race, my race. The white race. But he told me that it wasn't revolutionary. It was revolutionary for a white person to say that. It's not revolutionary for a person from Africa to say that. It's not revolutionary for someone from the Middle East to say that, or even an Asian to say that. Yes, they know there's big differences between someone from Thai or Singapore, but they know that they're Asian, and Africans and Middle Eastern people are the same way. There might be different tribes, like in Rwanda, that killed each other for maybe hundreds of years, but they're not going to say, oh, no, it's not Black Lives Matter, I'm Rwandan. No, they know damn well that as a group, as a racial group, they can get more gives, that they can, get all of our resources, kill our men, rape our women, groom our daughters, as they've been doing in the UK for the past 10, 15 years. So I'll say this, guys, before I go to the donations, Uncle Sam had a lot of great advice there. We want people to come in our community Tuesday events, but there is always that risk. There is always that danger, but I kind of live for that. We are products and prisoners of our time. And this is the time that I was meant to live, to be part of the dissident right. I've always had that youthful spirit of rebellion. I've always wanted to be a rebel or a dissident. And now this is the time that I want. True story. At the Siege of Copenhagen at Skansa Forum in Copenhagen last year, there was a bunch of Antifa surrounding it, wouldn't even let some of the speakers in. And we had to get our way out. And I was nominated by Mark Collette to lead a group of people to the subway. Even when the police were following us, the Antifa was still there throwing stuff at us, taking my picture. And while we got our guys to safety, I said, I'm screwed. They sent my picture. They're going to upload it online. There might be someone from some of the anti-white corporations that I've worked at for the last few years to dox me. That's it. It was at that moment that I accepted that it's not if, but when I get doxed, but obviously when. So I'm going to do it. I'm putting both feet in. I started writing after that, started doing streams after that. Now, obviously, my pictures were not uploaded for whatever reason, but there is always that chance. But it's sometimes that chance, that risk, that danger that makes life so exciting, that makes these events so important. As Uncle Sam said, if it was easy, everyone would do it. And if there wasn't a risk, everyone would not go, but hold these things too. That being said, I don't want to run the risk of forgetting these great donations. We have Tassie Michelle with 2 ice creams. Always great to see you. Natterton with 1 ice cream and 4 lemons. Thank you very much, friend. Thank you so much for being a great part of this community. Dissiding Voice with 1 diamond. A very cool name. Great to see you. We have Polar Lights. Susie with 1 lemon. Kiitos kaikesta, Mamuni. We also have Ganzer Prinadir with 5 ice cream. Great to see you as always. Vielen Dank, noch einmal. Lady Zoller, another diamond. Guru Scott, vielen Dank noch einmal. And we have Kiwi Jam Bear with 1 ice cream. And thank you very much. Very cool name, Kiwi Jam. And SJP with another diamond. I think we have a person, maybe from the Netherlands. We have Holliner with 1 diamond, says, interesting talk. Interesting to see you. Hello and welcome. Welcome. That being said, we were talking about Mark Collette. I know Mark Collette spoke at probably at least one of the conferences, if not more. What have been some of the biggest highlights at these events for you? Some of your favorite speakers, or just some of your favorite conferences in general the last few years?
My favorite speaker is always Jared Taylor. He's always been a personal favorite of mine. And often it's not even because he's just a friendly and eloquent speaker, but he's also just a fun person to have around. If you ever find yourself into the VIP party or the VIP group, being around Jared Taylor really is an experience unto itself that is just delightful to have around. At Skansa, he's been, and I think not at the Finland event, but for me, having to listen to Jared Taylor on Either American Renaissance, which is a great inspiration to us, gives us a great example that this is an international brotherhood and that you don't have to be a hate group in the sense that the ADL likes to convince people of. No, you can just say, look, guys, these are the statistics. We are not going to be treated the same as we treat others. And this is literally the crux of the morality that we're passing around. And it's not a big hit to say that this system that we keep going won't keep going as long as there are fewer people of us to keep it maintained. And you can see, some people will be like, oh, but Jared Taylor's a cock, and there's going to be a revolution at any point. And I'm like, there could have been a revolution in South Africa by any point as well. These people have literally nothing to live for or nothing to look forward to in the future, and it still hasn't happened. You might as well throw in the best possible likable arguments as you have, because if you don't have a culture that sustains itself for people to be inspired, given energy, the room to have a manly existence with sports, fights, the ability to chase around women, for instance, then your life is going to be shit, and you're not going to be Rambo either. And if you look at a heavily repressed people like whites are in South Africa, you become like a caged animal, like a test animal. You don't become Rambo. So I think accelerationism really doesn't lead to things that people want. So at least go for the route right now that gives you the best kind of exposure to let you interact with people, because in a way, Jared Taylor at least acknowledges that we as whites are all a victim of this society. And that is the best way to approach people right now as well.
I definitely agree. Uncle Jared is pretty much ready for sainthood. If you guys are Christian, that would be my nomination. Uncle Jared is such a great person. He spoke at Ethno Future back in 2019, and that was the last speech that he gave in Europe before he was banned from the Schengen zone. Now, we don't know if the Polish party, Prawo Sprawiedliwość, Law and Justice Party, whether they did it or there was someone in the bureaucracy or someone in Switzerland just blamed it. We probably will never know. But what we do know is that Uncle Jared is a great role model for all of us, for me at least. I hope when I'm his age, I'm half as articulate and half as in shape as he is. It's quite impressive that he speaks all these languages and is very in shape. And we want to get Uncle Jared back home where he belongs, speaking and talking and having fun at these events with us. That being said, it is always fun to have guests on, and we want to give a big shout out to Johanna, who is there with me in Tallinn, Estonia, with the great people of Ethno Future. And there's a lot of people in our community that kind of work behind the scenes to get people like me and Uncle Sam talking, or just give suggestions on who to bring on the show next. So a big shout out to Johanna and all the great people behind the scenes here. And guys, it takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to do the stuff that your favorite content creators do. And of course, me, right? So I want you guys going to that About section there. There's going to be 2 links. That first link is a Telegram channel that you can join to find out when we stream, when we have guests on, and when I have articles uploaded on Countercurrents. That second link, of course, naturally, is an archive page on Countercurrents that has 36 of my articles. The 36th one was uploaded today, called Blood, Fire, and Spirit. And I always encourage everyone, if you want some uplifting material, or you are trying to red pill your wife, girlfriend, a neighbor, family member, this is stuff that both you can read and they read as well. There's so many great writers, historians, philosophers on Countercurrents. And then there's me. I write what's on my mind and what comes from my heart. And what comes from my mind and on my heart is a love for our people, white people, and all the language, cultures, and history of the European people. But only white people want that to survive. And only Uncle Sam and Erkenbrand are doing things in the Netherlands to make that a reality. That being said, Uncle Sam, I want you to take the next few moments, as long as possible, to tell people where they can follow you, where they can find you, your website, and yes, most importantly, how people can support and donate to you and Erkenbrand. If you want to talk about that first, I will put that website up so you can people can see it when you talk about it.
Of course. Down in the bar, you of course see a link to our Twitter handle and to our website. On our website, there is in the sidebar, you can find our crypto donations that you can donate to. It has a little QR code there. We also have articles being posted every week. Usually our site doesn't get crawled, so you can only arrive at the site not through a Google search, but by inputting the link directly into the search bar. This is, obviously one of the bottlenecks that nationalism experiences. Eventually, Google is just going to flat out not crawl your site, and you are not going to be found, not ever. We also are on Facebook and on Telegram, where we can be found. And there are also a few other organizations you might be interested in the Netherlands, like the Geuzenbond.nl, also known as the Goose Union in English, Voorpost.org and ideverzet.org, where this is basically the entire Dutch national landscape. For the Geuzenbond, it is mostly Zoomers, and it is a very young organization setting up on the very same ideals we support and follow. Voorpost is more the old identitarian movement in Belgium and the Netherlands, and Ideverzet is the activist wing in the Netherlands that basically does to get media stunts, protesting on top of mosques, for instance, or back when We Are Here was squatting in houses, they squatted in a house of their own and were beset by Antifa, of course. These are very admirable acts because it shows that in society, the law is different for the minority, and another one counts for the majority as it still is. On our website, you can, of course, read a couple of articles. Some of them are a bit highbrow. And on our Telegram, we also share a bit more just newsworthy things in society that are happening. For our support, we'd love to receive your donations. We usually do them on various operations and to keep our day-to-day associations and travels going. Often we have to travel all over Europe to make sure that the network gets built and to put people in touch with other nationalist organizations. This takes, of course, a lot of money that we usually finance out of pocket, but anything you can do to help will be a great godsend to nationalism in Europe. So if you can send some Bitcoin or Ethereum or Monero, we'd be ecstatic about it.
That sounds great. We also have a few last minute donations here. We have where I picked off Kiwi Jambear again with 1 ice cream, SJB with 1 diamond, Holinier with 1 diamond, Spirit of Sagittarius with 5 ice cream. Spirit of Sagittarius, great to see you as always. Thanks for all the great work you do in our community. I hope you enjoy the next article. Lady Zoller, again, subscribing for 1 month. Vielen Dank noch einmal. And we have Holinier with 1 diamond. Guys, just as I always tell people to support counter-currents.com, they upload my articles, they do streams with me each week. I want you guys to support Erkenbrand. They're doing a lot of great work for our people, all of our friends, all our content creators. Go to Erkenbrand. They are well taken care of, and they need your support. So I know it's indirectly you want to give money to your favorite content creator. Well, your favorite content creator will not be able to have their lifestyle in the dissident right if they don't have events that they can go and speak and be activists at. And I do look forward to catching and seeing all of you guys at the next event, whether that's Patriot Alternative, which is next month, by the way, Awakening in Finland, hopefully later this year, and of course, Scandal Forum, which is going to be in Croatia with Jared Taylor versus E. Michael Jones. The date is to be determined, but I have a feeling it's going to be somewhere along the horizon. Uncle Sam, I really appreciate you coming on. As a kid, I read the book Shogun, and for people that aren't familiar, it's about an Englishman who sails and ends up kind of shipwrecked in Japan. But the point that I want to mention is that his adversary was a seafaring expert, adventurer, and warrior, a Dutch sailing expert, and the mind clever and games and the 4D chess was amazing. So when I think of the Dutch, I think a lot of people will think of windmills and tulips and clogs or Dutch ovens. But when I think of the Dutch, I think of hundreds, maybe thousands of years of history, culture, a beautiful language, and something that needs to survive. A history, a culture, a language, and a people. Uncle Sam, any last words of how you want the people to think and be reminded of the Dutch people?
The most important part, and I guess this perhaps ties a bit into donations, is that for us as a people to survive, we need the underground Dutch or white economy, as it were. If the way the Dutch or the Dutch-speaking retook South Africa from the English after being convincingly defeated in battle was to pass work and jobs only to other Boer Afrikaners. And this is basically outlined in the book Superboer, which is a South African book. Maybe it's in English as well. And to retake it, they all put themselves in strategic positions, gave work to each other, and made sure their community was prosperous over that of perfidious Albion, obviously. And this time has come again. There is another group in our society that passes only jobs to itself, holds conferences only for people with wealthy connections in tech. There's recently been one for Booking.com. He is a man of a particular religious ethnic persuasion, and he holds a conference in Israel for other millionaires in tech of the same religious ethnic persuasion. And it is insane that while whites are competing with each other and denying each other the light in their eyes, that these people benefit off of our infighting. It is ridiculous that another race stands united while we squabble in the corpse of our society. It is time that you, with people, and especially amongst nationalists, in your small closed groups, and sometimes even open groups, because, hey, labor is something that has no political affiliation attached to it. So if you know somebody, make sure somebody from your direct network always helps them out. And building this labor network has always been very beneficial to our survival as well. The amount of members we have right now and the amount of labor specialty we have access to, make sure that we can always help a brother out. And you know, that may sound a bit more ghetto than you're used to from white nationalists, but that is how it is. You must always help a brother or a sister out and make sure that finances stay within the group. Even Somalians can do this in Sweden. They don't lend from the bank. They don't pay into the global debt system. No, they have their own borrowing economy centered around the mosque. And we can have this as well, centered around the Nationalist Youth Foundation. Please think about that whenever you come together. It is not just about waving banners, waving flags, or sharing funny racist memes. No, please work for each other as well, because labor is the core of our society. Whether it is your donations keeping us going, or it is a friend helping you out at your home, or even in a more traditionalist sense, a farmer only asks help from a neighbor if he really needs it. Well, this is the same type of community. We are a small community where our people have to prosper. And this isn't done by words. It has to be done by finance and work and political maneuvering. And we can only retake this country and reclaim our dignity if we actually are willing to work for it and work together for it instead of fighting amongst ourselves. That is the last thing I wanted to share.
Help a Dutch brother out, and help definitely a Danish Karelian brother out right here, which you guys always do. Uncle Sam, thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. Come on. It has been a lot of fun. I hope to have you on in the future. And again, guys, this is the Writer's Block. I'm your friend and host, Fullmoon Ancestry. I want to thank all the moderators here, Bartleby, Slag, and each and every one of you for making this a fun, positive community where we celebrate white identity, white in-group preference, and for once in our lifetimes, we can stand up with Uncle Sam and Erkenbrand for our land, our resources, and our sovereignty. We can have it all, guys. We can have ethnic sovereignty. We can have Dutch sovereignty with white solidarity, and a whole lot of fun doing so. Any last words, Uncle Sam?
No, you all completed it rather succinctly. I'm happy to be on your show, and it's been great talking to you.
Support Erkenbrand. Stay safe, stay positive, and most importantly, stay happy, white people. We'll catch you next time.